We're talking football with Bengal Jim and friends. We're talking football. We hope this never ends. Jimmy, James, and Tom are back for more. Like Joey B, we're here for season 4 with Bengal guests and stories not heard before. There's Tony, Mark, and Jamie, as well as our charity, Houday Nation joining from far and wide. Every Sunday night, the guys are back at it live. By the fans, for the fans, from day one, it's time to have some fun. We're talking football with Bengal Jim and friends. We're talking football. We hope this never ends. The Bengal boys stop by to drop the speed. Don't get your popcorn ready and take a seat. Season 4 will end with the Lombardi.
Live from the Betfred Studios and the BLEAV Broadcasting Complex in Covington, Kentucky, it is an all-friends version of Bengal Jim and Friends. And to kick us off, here's our fearless leader tonight, James.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to our, May. Draft is over. Now we're all going to be anticipating this NFL schedule so we can properly plan our fall. But we'll recap some more draft talk. Also look forward to the upcoming lineup with John, who's with us already in the waiting room. But before we do that, some house cleaning stuff. Don't forget those that pre-registered for Jungle Jam, those that purchased tickets before May 1st, which was Wednesday. Still can't believe it's May already. Your name is in the drawing, absolutely free. We have the Wheel of Fate here that we're going to spin at the end of the show. And one of those people are going to take home that Jamar Chase autograph Flex Speed helmet. I think I got a picture here. Let me get that pulled up. So definitely stay tuned. Here is one of the pictures of that. And all you had to simply do was purchase tickets to Jungle Jam by May 1st, and you are 100% in that drawing. So we'll do that towards the end of the show. And Tom, how's your week been?
It's been good. Nothing but positive news for the Bengals. The stadium discussion is beginning to percolate, which the good news for it there is at least now it's finally being talked about. You can't have a solution without talking about it and getting some ideas. So that's a good thing. And, I can't find anybody, even those that really try, to be completely against the Bengals draft. Now that everybody's had a little more time to get used to it and study it. The worst grades I'm seeing are solid B. And I'm seeing some A's and some B's. And I really think that the draft addressed many needs. As we found out last year, you probably can't address every need on a roster because you just don't know what is going to happen from a health standpoint going in. So, no, I think positive news. Looking forward to all the rookie camps and mini camps to set things up for a great summer and then a healthy and productive training camp on the road to New Orleans.
And as we mentioned last week, the NFL schedule should be coming out either next week or the week after. Again, we will not be on next Sunday because of Mother's Day, but we will have a mid-May show, May 19th. Mark your calendars. Cordell Volson, our starting left guard, will be on to not only talk about his charity, but third season in stripes with us. So look forward to having Cordell on the show and talking about his new charity, which will be a benefit. Pull up that graphic while we're talking about 100% of the cornhole tournament at Jungle Jam will be going to Cordell's charity, Small Town Big Dreams. Let me find that graphic. Here it is. So just $50 entry if you haven't had the opportunity to sign up yet. It's double elimination. That'll be one of the many facets of Jungle Jam to be taking place July 20th. We'll post in the comments the ticket link if you haven't got on there. Also, if you're watching, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can give a follow. We appreciate that. Also, someone talking to Tom, I know you've been getting these questions, is I'm not able to make Jungle Jam. I want to support the effort. What can I do? Well, if you go to the One Cost page that we have the year of season tickets. You can purchase those. We'll raffle those off. They're silent auction items, including a great away trip to Kansas City, 3 nights at the Harris Casino, and 2 suite tickets at the Harris Suite there in Kansas City. There's some great jerseys, a team issued Joe Burrow jersey in there. And again, 100% of those proceeds, as we always do, will go to several charities as part of the Jungle Jam festivities there on July 20th. Here is the ticker. We'll scroll across the bottom and then we'll have any further. Let's jump in with our guest, Tom. If you don't mind, please do the introduction.
Well, to help kick us off tonight for the football portion of the show, he is part of the BLEAV Network. He also covers the Bengals for A to Z and is a monster fan, which brings automatic respect when Jeff Hobson calls you out in a good way. We should be so lucky. But no, Jeff is fantastic to us. And also to our guest tonight, John Sheeran. John, welcome to Bengal Jim and Friends Without Bengal Jim.
How's it going, guys? Glad to be on.
Very
We
good.
got the B list tonight. The one thing we failed to mention, Jimmy's flying back from Ryan's bachelor party in the Pacific Northwest. So Jimmy and 2 out of the 3 other boys were out there celebrating Ryan's bachelor party. So otherwise, if he wasn't 30,000 foot in the air, he'd be joining us tonight. But you kind of got the B team, John, but we're still going to talk Bengals. We're still going to talk football, and appreciate you having us on. Tom, go ahead and kick it off. As always, if you have a question for John, put that in the chat. We'll do our best to get that up there and have John answer it.
John, going back to when our season unfortunately ended in January, what was on your mind the first thing that the Bengals needed to craft and do? What was the best way to jumpstart the 2024 Bengals, and did they accomplish it?
I think everyone kind of had a similar idea when Burrow went down against the Ravens. At the time, it was the least athletic offensive line, at least in the AFC, probably in the entire NFL. It's been a problem for years now, and it's a lack of proper resources, whether in the scouting department or just an archaic view of how offensive linemen should play or how they should be developed or which type of offensive linemen should be brought in. And when they go through these free agency periods in the past couple of years, they found makeshift solutions, particularly at right tackle and everything, but they still needed to take a jump in terms of actually bringing in competent athletes, because when you play 6 games against AFC North opponents with the best pass rushers in the world, games like that Ravens game can happen every single year. And we've seen Burrow suffer, multiple now season-ending injuries, and it's not going to be a problem that was going to go away. So yes, most of the offensive line was settled in for 2024, but I think the way that they handled the right tackle spot with Trent Brown, who when he does play is a very solid right tackle, but bringing him in wasn't the full solution, right? Because you can't rely on someone who's only played 3 full seasons in 9 years to start, for potentially a team that's going to play 20 games, including the playoffs. So complementing that with a high-end athlete and Amarius Mims, and obviously, Matt Lee is a great athlete as well. Just having 2 high-end athletes joining the offensive line and really getting a nice first step towards solving that problem for the future and continuing to develop the offensive line with high-end athletes to best prepare yourself against the best pass rushers in the world, I think was a great first start. And obviously on defense, finding a way to limit explosive plays and obviously bringing in, veteran safeties who have a knack of just knowing where to be, and their intelligence and their pre-snap and post-snap ability, and Geno Stone and Von Bell, I think, go a long way with that. So it was obviously, limiting explosive plays on defense and creating explosive plays on offense, but I think a lot of that did start with finding competent athletes on the offensive line, and they did take a nice first step in the draft with doing that.
John, getting back to – sorry, James, go ahead.
The one thing we didn't address, John, and this is a question in the chat, is the running back position. Obviously, Joe Mixon traded in the offseason. Chase Brown here. We picked up Zach Moss in free agency. Do you see us adding another veteran, somebody that's been around the league here before camp, maybe as even another camp body, or do you see us staying put at the running back position?
So whenever we deal with stuff like this, we have to look at, precedent and maybe recent history to kind of give us an answer. Samaje Perine always comes to my head as like how they acquired him. He was a waiver pickup, I think, right after final cuts. It was 2019-2020, and at the time, it's like, yeah, like this guy. He played at Oklahoma with Joe Mixon, but he was a fourth-round pick. Didn't really do much with his first team, but he became a staple of the team for the next few seasons, and at some points was their most efficient rusher of the football. So I think with the running back position specifically, there's just a massive influx of talent every single year. There's just a surplus of players at the position, and it's not a really highly valued position. So naturally, the supply is greater than the demand. So I think we were all a little surprised when they didn't draft a running back, because I think the bottom of the depth chart at that position could definitely improve, Trayvon Williams being your third option. But throughout the offseason, like, players will get cut. There'll be chances to maybe strike a trade for like a late round pick or a player swap, which the Bengals often do. So I don't think they're particularly done there. Like, it could be a situation where they try to find something. They go through their normal avenues and channels of player acquisitions and nothing comes up, and they just stick with who they have. But I wouldn't be surprised if by the time training camp and the preseason ends that they're looking for running backs that were cut to add more competition for Trayvon.
Jumping back to the offensive line, do you think this is the best pass protecting group, if they stay healthy, that Joe Burrow has had? And can we finally have a line where 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1 is an automatic first down? Do you think that has finally happened?
It's funny because I think we've always talked about this every single year, right? The offensive line has gradually improved as Burrow's career has progressed, and it's been maybe baby steps here at times, but like Trent Brown, he's coming in on like a 1 year, $4 million deal, so it doesn't really stand out for maybe someone who doesn't really know about his game. But again, when he's on the field, he's a phenomenal pass protector, and particularly with what the Bengals like to do, they like to have straight dropback situations 30, 40 times a game. That's something that Trent Brown has been able to be reliable with, and regardless of what scheme that he's in, like the Patriots offense has kind of evolved with the different play callers that they've had there and whatnot, but they've trusted him on an island against really top-notch pass rushers. And again, when he's been on the field, when he's been able to stay available, he's performed like it. So he's by far the best pass protecting right tackle that they've had in quite some time. But obviously the risks with him are known, which is why they needed to bring in immediate short-term and long-term depth behind him. And Amarius Mims is perfect because, again, trusting him to just go on a 45-degree or a vertical set on his own as you slide protection to the other side, you can trust him to handle one-on-ones against the TJ Watts of the world once he gets the proper seasoning and enough in-game experience. And that will happen as the season progresses and he gets reps behind Trent Brown. So just having that right tackle spot, I think, solidified. You don't have to worry about it. You still want more progression out of left guard Cordell Volson. And I think as everything kind of continues to come together, Orlando Brown will look a little bit more comfortable as the scheme, I think, this year should reflect more of his skill sets compared to what it was last year. And yeah, Ted Karras and Alex Cappa are still capable starters. So definitely the best overall pass protecting group. But again, it's kind of been in that trajectory over the past couple of years. But now you're at a point where it's like, yes, I don't think there's any real big question marks at any of the 5 spots really.
Now that we've got through the initial phase of free agency, the draft, coming up on off-season workouts, what would you say is one of the top 1 or 2 things on the Bengals whiteboard to do here as we get ready to rock and roll for the upcoming season?
You talking about like adjustments or like just things to hammer down for the offseason?
Maybe even players. Obviously, we have the new offensive coordinator coming in. Dan Pitcher's going to take some time to work with the players, although he's no stranger to the system. I would say maybe player-wise, more specifically, is there one area that really wasn't addressed in the beginning of free agency? We really didn't do much with it in the draft. Maybe this is just something, a depth signing that we need to get us through camp, and maybe that person will make the roster.
For sure. I think cornerback and nose tackle kind of stand out. And I mean, we talked about it during free agency. It wasn't a very robust market there. It was just tier tart. And, that meeting that they had, didn't go anywhere, and he ended up signing somewhere else. So I would still not feel the most comfortable with just McKinley Jackson being your guy at that spot. I think the fact that how everything happened in free agency happened and they lost Reader, and there wasn't going to be anyone close to DJ Reader walking through that door to replace him. So I think naturally things are going to have to change at that position. And I think McKinley Jackson, what he does best, kind of reflects that too, because he's not a true one-for-one DJ Reader replacement. So how they handle that adjustment going forward and that transition is going to be interesting to me. If there's any schematic changes to how they deploy that position, are they going to have less two gapping from that spot? Are they going to have him as a shaded one when DJ Reader was a 2-eye for most of his time in Cincinnati? So I don't know if there's a veteran out there aside from maybe Calais Campbell, which, you know, that's like the big name, but I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't consider that likely. So how they kind of adjust with that position with McKinley Jackson going forward is interesting. And that cornerback, I think they're definitely going to be investing a lot in getting Dax Hill up to speed at that position to see if he can actually compete with DJ Turner. But if he doesn't win that job, and if he's just, you know, the first defensive back off the bench, like, that's a really crucial spot for them. Like, they've relied so heavily on the fourth cornerback on the roster for the past couple of years, whether it be with injuries or, you know, with last year with Cheeto not returning fully in time. And that's how DJ Turner ended up being the starter to begin the year last year, when maybe people didn't expect that to happen. So I would have definitely expected a veteran signing at that position before the draft. It didn't happen. It seemed like they were reportedly there was only interest in Christian Fulton. We didn't know if they, you know, sent out any offers to any of the other available cornerbacks, but I was still surprised that they didn't sign someone there. And maybe that's because they just knew that Dax Hill was going to transition to cornerback there and give them more depth there. But even still, like, I would still have worries about the lack of capable known quantities there, because again, like, injuries happen to that position, specifically with the Bengals, unfortunately. And because maybe DJ Reader or DJ Turner didn't finish last year as strong, I think it's still probably a question mark for sure.
I really thought that in DJ's instance, it seemed like, because it's 2 years in a row, Lou Anarumo's had a high draft pick rookie step into the starting lineup and do really well. And he did really well until mid-December. And then the wheels started to fall off, and then the wheels completely fell off. It's almost like he hit that rookie wall that you hear about. And he played a lot in the preseason, and, you know, it was his longest year. So I asked other guys if they thought that was it, and they've offered that as a possibility. But the defensive line, before we get to the Trey Hendrickson soap opera, do you think with, you know, what they have mixing and matching, we're going to get that push up the middle that Lou Anarumo so desperately wants? And with better health, we're going to get the push of the pocket and guys coming around the edge?
For sure. I think they definitely have the proper athleticism there to really give the best quarterbacks fits. Sheldon Rankins is a huge signing. I don't think that can be understated. Even if he's not at the level of maybe the premier three techniques in the league, I think they're getting him a really good value. And what's important with that is, yeah, even if Sheldon Rankins isn't like the best all-around three technique, he is an explosive pass rusher with a known bag of moves, you know, to penetrate and cross the guard's face and to really just get a nice win rate there, which they haven't really had really since Larry Ogunjobi. I think Sheldon Rankins is an improved, more enhanced version of Larry Ogunjobi, and they get him for another year compared to when they had Ogunjobi a couple of years ago. But what was so important during that season in 2021 is you had a constant rotation of defensive tackles. You could go three deep with competent guys there, and you wouldn't have to worry about, you know, overusing either Ogunjobi or BJ Hill in that instance. And that was BJ Hill's best year because he was always fresh throughout the season, which hasn't been the case in the past couple of years because unfortunately they just couldn't rely on depth at that spot. So the fact that they now have, I think, you know, two really good three techniques in Hill and Rankins as your veterans. You now include Chris Jenkins in the rotation, another phenomenal athlete who I think can offer more as a pass rusher than what he did at Michigan, just because of the structure of Michigan's defense and how, you know, obviously so dominant he was against the run. I don't really know if they really asked him to rush their passer that much. That's going to be another mystery that we're going to have to solve. Like, how capable is he out of the gate rushing the passer on those obvious passing downs? And maybe they won't, you know, throw him to the fire that quickly, but the fact that he's there and we know that he's good at football, I think it definitely benefits both Rankins and Hill to get that interior push. And yeah, the more athletes that you can get just go in and rotate throughout the game, it just makes everyone better for the long run because you're not overusing these guys throughout the season and they're not dead tired by December and January.
Looking through the chat, looks like we got New York, Pennsylvania. John is back from touring Japan to visit his son, so welcome back, John. See, we got Florida. We got the fan of the year in Toronto, so we are international in the chat. If you have a question for John, pop that in there, and we'll do our best to get that up there for him. one of the questions in there was the favorite draft pick, but let's broaden that scope, John. What was your maybe favorite? What person do you think is going to have the biggest impact that we picked up in either free agency or the draft this past season?
Oh, I mean, they drafted or at least signed, a handful of starters. I think with Geno Stone coming in, he's going to play the most snaps he's ever played in his career, and he was a starter last year with Baltimore. But I think the way that they handled the safety position, like he's entrenched to just stay on the field and just be exactly who they didn't have last year, a veteran presence at free safety who is going to stay in the right positions. He's going to be trusted to maybe rotate post-snap, which is what they couldn't do without either Jesse Bates or Von Bell. Obviously, Von Bell coming back, he's going to play some snaps. I guess we still don't really know how big of a role it's going to be. I don't imagine he would have came back here if he didn't think that he had a chance to play, but you still want to get Jordan Battle on the field too, so like that dynamic is going to be interesting. Obviously, Sheldon Rankins is their best interior pass rusher, so his role and his impact is going to be immense. Mike Gesicki now is in a room with a bunch of tight ends when I think back in February there were no tight ends on the roster, right? So I think the fact that they have quality depth there will allow them to use him to his specific and special skill set and not, not force him to block, not force him to be on the inline because they got guys now that can do that. But in terms of like the rookies, obviously Chris Jenkins is going to play hundreds of snaps immediately as the third defensive tackle, but Jermaine Burton definitely does stand out because not only is he replacing at least Tyler Boyd's spot on the depth chart, it's going to be a different role, right? You're going to see him on the outside. You're not going to see him just pigeonholed in the slot running underneath routes, but being the guy that his presence alone will force the defense to play a couple yards back, and it will keep him off of those short routes, and they won't be sitting on those routes, and it'll create more space for their other weapons, right? And that's what they needed outside of Jamar Chase. They needed another guy that can truly, just his presence alone will force defenses to be honest, and allowing him to play on the outside gives you the chance to put Jamar Chase on the inside more. And that's where the best receivers in the NFL are their most productive selves when they're running these vertical routes from the inside. Tyreek Hill does it. Justin Jefferson does it. They can do that with Jamar Chase now and not just have him just, catch the ball 3 yards down the field, make guys miss. They have multiple guys who can do that now. But Burton is going to see, close to 1,000 snaps or maybe even more. And I'm sure they're going to rotate some of those guys in the wide receiver like Yoshivas and Charlie Jones to give them more exposure. But his specific skill set is what this offense needed in the post-Tyler Boyd era, and he's going to play immediately for sure.
Getting to the puzzling soap opera that is Trey Hendrickson. Now, I'm in the camp that while Trey is saying things and Trey is frustrated and Trey wants more money, Trey should be having a very serious conversation with his agent who negotiated the deal a year ago to much excitement when Trey got several $1 million more up front and extended the deal. I also think, Trey has the option of going out and having a year next year like he did this year. And I'm quite sure that the Bengals going into that final contract year will reward him. The Bengals have never been shy about rewarding great play. How do you see that playing out? And John, quite frankly, what in the hell is going on?
It's a unique situation. No one really expected this. I suppose it was Jeremy Fowler of ESPN who kind of alluded to whatever Trey has been feeling has been going on for a while. It's why I guess he didn't participate in OTAs a couple of years ago. But even still, that was a year after he signed the initial 4-year, $60 million deal, which at the time, it wasn't a unanimously smart decision viewed by the from the outside, because Trey Hendrickson was a 1-year starter out of New Orleans and he had a great year as that starter. He had 13 sacks, but a lot of people thought that they took a big chance on him and it was a big risk to see if this guy is going to live up to that type of money. And of course he did that first year in 2021. So I think that was at the point where hey, maybe did I sign a contract that was a lot less than what I should be worth? I mean, obviously I can't renegotiate. It's only been a year into this 4-year deal. The Bengals or any other team aren't going to take you up on that. So I think he just kept grinding and stuck his head down and just kept working. And obviously he's continued to be that caliber of player. So if nothing had happened last offseason and they weren't able to find a 1-year bridge, I would definitely understand Trey's strife more because you're entering a contract year. You're about to be 29, 30 years old. I can understand wanting more long-term security. The fact that he did sign that 1-year extension, there's still more that we don't exactly know. There's a possibility that they were talking about something a little bit longer and they just settled on the 1-year deal, assuming that both sides were going to come back together this offseason and discuss something more long term. I guess, again, like, we don't know if that actually happened. There's a possibility that it did, and that's where Trey's strife is kind of coming from. Like, hey, like, it's been a year, let's come back to the table. Let's see if we can get something a little bit more longer done now on the table. And I don't know if the Bengals are like, no, we don't really want to do that. But yeah, it's a lot of speculation, and I don't really want to say things that may or may not be true. But from the surface, it does look like the Bengals did something kind of rare, which was extend a player at his age after already signing the contract a couple of years ago, and now they're just like, yeah, you're under contract for 2 more years. You're going to deal with it. This is the bet that you made, and kudos to Trey for actually pulling the Carson Palmer card, but no one actually believes he's going to do it. So I think this all kind of ends in a little bit of nothing.
That was my next question. Do you expecting at Paycor Stadium in July, and the last thing you want to do is play the Carson Palmer card? I mean, he could have called me, and I could tell him how that's going to end up with Mike Brown and Katie Blackburn. And, you play it too hard, you might even burn some bridges.
Yeah. But again, it's still like the exact details of those conversations that they had last year and how they got to the 1-year deal. It's still very unknown. I think it was the shock value of like the report right before the draft. It was obviously a leverage play by his agent, but I think you're onto something. Like, I don't think that Trey's camp and Trey himself have played this as best as they could have, and that was kind of a last ditch effort. But yeah, his hands are kind of tied because this is the Bengals, and they don't fold in situations like this, and I don't expect Trey to be the exception to that.
The other apple cart getting rocked in the offseason obviously was T. Higgins, signing him to the franchise. A lot of the before draft, we heard the talk, Carolina needs a receiver, Buffalo needs a receiver. Who knows if even the thought of trading T to Buffalo even crossed the Bengals' minds. But certainly all those teams addressed those wide receiver needs in the draft. So there doesn't appear to be a lot of landing places for T. So do you envision him begrudgingly just playing out this year, and then we'll see what happens again at the end of the year?
100%. Unless you're a quarterback, I don't think that sitting down the tag is ever in anyone's best interest. He's not recuperating that 22 million, even if he does get the deal that he wants entering free agency next year. So he's in a point where he can ball out and risk the Bengals putting the tag on him again, which would make some financial sense considering what the tag is going to be for him compared to the rest of the wide receiver market. Or another similar year like 2023 can occur, and maybe the Bengals will decide that it's probably in our best interest to let you go. We don't want to spend another $27 million on you if these were the last 2 years. So that's kind of the situation that he's in. Considering how hyped up this wide receiver class was, it did seem unlikely that the Bengals were actually going to get the price that they would have wanted, which was going to be at least a first-round pick. I don't think anyone really expected the Bengals to part ways with one of their best players for less than what they originally drafted him for. And again, like, whenever they do make these trades, like, they typically hold out for the best offer, unless it's a Carlos Dunlap situation where he just kind of just ruins the whole dynamic, and they just want him out there as soon as possible. But obviously T. Higgins wasn't going to do that, and it's a completely different situation. So it was always going to be like a high price that the Bengals were going to ask for if they were even fielding calls in the first place. Again, there's a lot of stuff that we're just not privy to the knowledge of, and again, this is just the territory where the Bengals typically don't end up doing anything because, again, they either overvalue their own players or they just don't give in to these demands. So I think with T, because of just how easy it was going to be for interested teams to actually draft wide receivers under cost-controlled contracts and the Bengals' asking price, it just never really seemed very likely, and him playing on the tag was always the more likely situation.
Shifting gears, we're going to talk about it a little bit at the end of the show here. The upcoming schedule release. A lot of rumors, potentially Germany will happen this year. Does it happen next year? As everyone knows, we play at Carolina this year. They're going to Germany, Munich being the sister city. Looking at the schedule, anything you've heard that you'd like to divulge as far as schedule or that possibility of Germany happen for the upcoming season?
I typically like to avoid schedule leaks. I like seeing the announcement all at once. But no, like I do remember back in January, like I think people were starting to put that 2 and 2 together because the Bengals hadn't been over in Europe since I think it was 2019 when they played the Rams. It was Zach Taylor's first year against his former team, and they were like 0-8 at the time. So it would make sense for them to go back over there. I think the time before that was against Washington in 2016, and obviously Germany it would be the first for the team. And that game kind of makes sense considering it's not like a divisional opponent. It's not like a tremendously high-key marquee matchup. It's just two cat teams. So I think that matchup does make a lot of sense for Germany, but I haven't really heard anything about anything regarding like the schedule leaks or anything like that.
John, you need to know that, I mean, if you're not going to indulge in the schedule leaks and rumors and so forth, join us in leaking them. I mean, come on, you got to have some fun with it, and have people, going nuts on Twitter and social media and everything else. But no, I agree. It's throwing darts at a dartboard with a blindfold on. You just don't know. The one thing that I do not want late in the year is, and I know we end the year with a divisional opponent and so forth, but after getting beat up after 17 games in an 18-week schedule, I don't want one of those schedules where 3 of our last 5 games are in the division with the physical teams we play, and I don't want to play in the mud in Cleveland, Pittsburgh, or Baltimore. So, but the scheduling gods will do that. What worries me is I do not want that Christmas gauntlet. James and I were talking about it earlier, of playing on Saturday before Christmas and then Wednesday, Christmas Day. I'm hoping the league will leave us alone for the holiday. Just let us play on Sunday and maybe do the right thing and give us the Black Friday game. That
would be interesting. The fact that they applied to just be the annual Black Friday game was very shocking to me. It didn't seem like something that I would have expected from the Bengals. But I think the fact that they did finish last in the division will kind of give us a chance to take a breather on Christmas. Just how many games in primetime in general is going to be interesting, considering coming off of that down year. They've had they've been fortunate enough to have primetime games for the Ring of Honor celebrations in September, and maybe that will continue. But yeah, I've always found that interesting. Like if a team is coming off like a down year, how the schedule kind of reflects that. And even still, like I don't know if like the Bengals have had like a home primetime game against a divisional opponent in a while. I feel like those are always on the road as well. I think it was like a year or two ago where they had like 3. They played all 3 of their divisional opponents, the Steelers, Ravens, and Browns, on the road under the lights, which seemed kind of crazy. And I don't know if any other team had to really deal with that. So having a home primetime game against a divisional opponent would be fun and definitely a change of pace.
All righty, let's see here. What else do we need to address? Looking through the questions here in the chat, Augie from New York mentions Le'Veon Bell was the last person, and that didn't work out too well. I think his career went south pretty fast after that. Talk about pulling the Carson card. The Josh Tuopo I thought was interesting. Luke mentions that in the chat as bringing him back as a depth piece, but if I'm not mistaken, one of the rookies actually took his jersey number. I think this past week they released the jersey numbers of all the rookies and what they were going to be, and it'll be interesting to see. I know Bengals were fond of Josh, but that certainly could be a depth piece. I don't know if that's your answer when you were talking about that defensive tackle position, but certainly somebody that's familiar with the organization.
Yeah, it was McKinley who took it, so it's the same position there. But, man, like he was with the team, I think he joined like 2016, 2017, so low-key he was here longer than pretty much most of the team, aside from maybe Tyler Boyd, transcended 2 coaching staffs and just kept a roster spot, kept a role for so many years as an undrafted free agent. So, underrated Bengals career, Josh Tupou.
Tom?
No, John, getting back a little bit toward next year, who do you see this coaching staff, what player do you see this coaching staff coaching up? Who is going to emerge in year 2 in their career, or year 3 as a contributor who's maybe been on the bench a little bit. Maybe everybody's overlooking. Who's going to get that chance and seize it and become a big contributor as we march on the way to New Orleans?
It's a good question because I do think there is something about finishing the previous year on a high note and having that translate into the next year. It happened with Tyler Boyd back in the day. It happened with Sam Hubbard. I think it can happen with Myles Murphy, just because he obviously did play a lot more as his rookie season progressed, and the production, the efficiency of him winning as a pass rusher also kind of improved. I think that they need to reach a point where they're more comfortable subbing out Sam Hubbard more consistently, especially towards the later part of the year. And that can involve obviously moving him inside in some pass rushing situations. You have more options there to do that, but he's a first round pick, and you want to see, the value of that kind of present itself. If he's not a starter in year two, and no one expects him to be, and he shouldn't be a starter with those two guys ahead of him. But I think the more pass rushing opportunities that you give Myles Murphy, and subsequently obviously take that away from Sam Hubbard and let Hubbard, kind of stay fresh throughout the year and be the edge setter that everyone knows he can be, I think that will make the defense a little bit better. But I think Myles is also ready for that. He was a phenomenal athlete out of Clemson who was still really young. He was drafted at 21 years old. His production was never tremendous there either. Like, it's always the Clemson defensive linemen. There's never a lot of guys that really pop off the stat sheet. They have just a ton of guys that rotate in. But Marion Hobby, one of the best defensive line coaches in the league, really hones in on hand usage and technique, and we saw that progression towards the end of last year. So he has all the tools to really put this together, and he honestly surprised me a little bit for how much he improved as a rookie. I didn't think he was ready for a very large role, but I think he started to prove me wrong towards the end of the season. So the more that he plays, I think the better he'll get, and that's obviously phenomenal for a Bengals defense that needs another consistent, reliable pass rusher outside of Trey Hendrickson.
We appreciate you coming on tonight, John. We're going to end it with this question. We briefly touched on it earlier. Brian Callahan has obviously moved on to Nashville to lead the Titans. What do you expect, if any, changes from the offense with now Dan Pitcher coming in as OC? Obviously, Zach's still going to be calling the plays. Do you envision a lot of what we saw the last, 4 years under Zach and Brian, or do you think we'll see some new wrinkles with Dan as OC?
There will be new wrinkles. I think him and Justin Riscati, I think that combination, because Riscati came from Denver, Minnesota, he's got familiarity with wide zone, going under center, developing play action off of those concepts. And I think Dan Pitcher was very integral in fitting the offense around Jake Browning last year and just coming up with new game plans and schemes to best make his skill set work. And obviously we all saw the benefits of that, and we all kind of pictured what would this offense look like with Joe Burrow on, kind of leading it, because you don't want to take away from what Burrow does best, which is put him in the gun and let him read post snap and give him as many options and targets as possible. But putting him under center and forcing Burrow to be more comfortable in those situations, it just diversifies your offense, and it makes you less predictable. And the more gaps that you force the defense to account for in those personnel packages, the harder it is to defend it, the more easier you get for explosive plays. And that's what Minnesota, when Riscati was there, that's what they were able to do. They were always able to find ways to get Justin Jefferson out and open in space, starting with Kirk Cousins or whoever the quarterback was for the Vikings at the end of the year under center. And that's the evolution that the offense needs to take. I think Pitcher was very key in starting that evolution with Browning last year. And I think the addition of him, we're now working with Riscati as the pass game coordinator, that can compound with that. So again, we've talked about for 2 years now, they need to maximize play action more. They need to stop using Burrow only exclusively under shotgun. I think those are the types of changes that they're going to be trying to key in on, and hopefully they get a full offseason of healthy Burrow to kind of implement it.
Well, John, again, we appreciate you coming on. For those that don't know where to find you, again, somebody else, a fellow BLEAV Network podcaster, where can they find you, and what nights and days of the week do you do your shows?
Yeah, so very excited that we're now on under BLEAV, under BLEAV in Cincy. It's going to be a great opportunity for all of us. But yeah, you can hear my voice on the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast with my co-host and star of the show, Anthony Cosenza, and you can read my work at a2zsports.com/Cincinnati for all your analysis and news and everything like that.
John, we all agree Anthony might be the star, but you are the talent. I mean,
all right, John,
make a good team.
Appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much, and look forward to football season coming here. I think draft. I mean, the NFL continues the 12-month cycle of staying at the forefront of the news, and schedule release next. We'll see if Germany happens, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us here tonight.
Never stops. Like you said, 12 months, but appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hope you'll come back. Thank you. Houday.
Absolutely.
Houday. All righty. Let's get back to the dual screen. Again, if you're just joining us, our fearless leader is on a flight back from the Pacific Northwest. A little show update. May 19th will be our next one. We'll be off next weekend for Mother's Day. So we come back May 19th. We'll certainly talk schedule, but also have Cordell Volson on with us. And if you're tuned in right now, stay tuned. We're getting closer to that helmet raffle. See who will take home that Jamar Chase Speed Flex helmet. And Tom, looked like you're about ready to say something.
No, just a big thank you. As you mentioned, Jimmy flying back from a bachelor party in Portland. We'd like to thank Mark, who'll be joining us back on the show very shortly, for flying out to Portland to bail Jimmy out so he could get back on his plane and get back here and get back to work Monday and be productive and hopefully be on with us in 2 weeks. And, unless he's arraigned on something else. And based on what Mark has told me, I would say a good 5 of those charges will be dismissed.
I tell you what, if you weren't a regular, say you just tune in like once every 3 months on the show, I think you would believe Jamie's been arrested 16 times, 14 of which trying to cross the border. Jimmy's in jail. When I'm not on, I'm in jail in some third world country. I mean, these.
But you were.
Jeff's asking what happens in Portland. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, but it's great to see some. Don't ask questions. We'll just hopefully see him May 19th. But as always, it looks like some people were off a little bit. So great seeing him back. Another question we mentioned, we touched on earlier, involving Jungle Jam is, how can I get involved? How can I pitch in, be part of the Jungle Jam? We do have that year of season tickets, all preseason games, regular season games. We will announce that 2 weeks before the first preseason game. So $100 donation to that. You'll get all preseason games and all regular season games for that one lucky winner. 100% of those proceeds are going to go to the Joe Burrow Foundation, Ken Anderson Foundation, Revive, Village of Marici, Small Towns, Big Dreams. So I think that's 5 of God knows how many that will be involved there in Jungle Jam. I did post earlier the link. You want to go peruse that page. Lots of good items in there, including and there's the link again, to how to be a part. And no, Augie. Geez, Augie's a little nervous. No, it's not a shot at you. School's coming to an end in the Empire State. You're allowed to have some hall passes every now and then.
Do we have the Ken Anderson jersey on that page yet?
Let me check. I don't know if I've uploaded that one yet, but there's an Emden McPherson jersey. The Joe Burrow game issue jersey is on there. There's a Trey Hendrickson jersey, I believe. So a lot of cool stuff on there. And, to Augie's point, it's okay to miss a show. Everything's archived on YouTube. You just simply go to our YouTube channel and go back and watch any of the shows. But before we end it here, let's go ahead and get this wheel pulled up. See, it has the Jungle Jam logo on it. We're going to scroll through here. You will see the list of names all here that are represented on that. So, again, one of these people, we will be in touch. If you're watching tonight, feel free to shoot us a message. But you can see the names and names and names of those in the hat that purchased their tickets by May 1st. So without further ado, Tom, you think we're ready to spin the wheel?
Spin it.
All righty.
Spin it.
Here we go.
We need a winner.
Again, this person will take home. I'm going to pop up the graphic one more time. It's Jamar Chase Speed Flex helmet. Maybe it won't pop up since there it is. It'll pop up there. I thought I had a picture of it by itself as well. Maybe I do not, but Jimmy shared those, plenty of pictures of it on social media. So congrats to this one lucky winner. We're going to go ahead and spin the wheel.
Danny Williams.
Danny Williams. So if you're watching, if you know Danny, give us a shout. Danny will be the lucky winner of that Jamar Chase.
I'm not acquainted with Danny, so it'll be great to meet him. And
have to go back and see. I think there's already like 10, 12, I don't know, 15 states represented that have purchased tickets. So congratulations to Danny, and appreciate everybody that tunes in on a weekly basis. Let's go ahead and find a 2-minute warning clip. We'll use this one because I believe Cam Taylor Britt had a new bobblehead released Saturday from our friends at Cincy Bob. So we'll go with this one.
2-minute warning.
There we go. Josh, representing the Jungle to the Hall shirt. I had the Jungle to the Hall 3 shirt on yesterday while walking around downtown Cincinnati and got some comments. But Tom, go ahead and start us off here.
Well, one thing, a quick question, something you brought up that I don't think a lot of people are. For Jungle Jam, we're going to have a lot of vendors there, including Cincy Bob's. And Hollis with some of his art, but there'll be plenty of opportunities to buy Cincy Bob's and all kinds of Bengal memorabilia. So, be looking for those guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun to relax, talk about the team optimistically, but keeping it real. So looking forward to everybody there. Another step forward is the schedule release. So let the rumors commence. They all mean nothing, as we've learned in the past, until it comes out, which should be maybe 10 days, probably, right around 2 weeks. So, we'll look forward to that. Look forward to all of our new players. And again, thank you to everybody for tuning in and spending time with us. Without you, we don't get to do this, and we don't get to have fun. And we will be off next Sunday. And so to all the moms out there, happy Mother's Day. And for those remembering and celebrating moms, happy Mother's Day to all of you. James?
Appreciate it. Thank you. Brandon put a friendly reminder in the chat. Looks like the Sam Hubbard Bowling Tournament is this Thursday. I know that typically sells out every year. I'm sure it's sold out this year. So those that are attending that on Thursday, we got Frank. We have a resident Bulldog joining the studio tonight, Tom. I don't know if you can see him. There he is. That's Jimmy's replacement tonight. That's what we've come to. We have a Bulldog. Look at Frank's mug just on the show. Look at him. Does not look happy, but Frank decided to come and visited the BLEAV Studios, and it's been pretty quiet. Normally, when he's on his phone, he's loud. But as always, appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, love for you to be part of Jungle Jam off next week. We look forward to seeing everybody back in 2 weeks for Cordell Volson on. We'll talk about the schedule, and then we can finally make our travel plans and schedule the fall calendar. So, good day, everybody. Appreciate John joining us, and take care. Have a good week, and happy May. May is here.